Welcome to the deep dive. It is great to have you with us today.
Yeah, we are really glad you're here.
Our mission for this session is an incredibly compelling one. We are going to explore the life, the career, and the enduring legacy of Mark William Calloway.
A huge name.
Massive. And, if you don't immediately recognize the name Mark Calloway, you almost certainly know him by his universally recognized moniker.
WWE's The Undertaker.
Exactly. We are pulling from a really comprehensive encyclopedic overview of his 30-plus year career. We're looking at his deeply guarded personal life and even his post-retirement ventures right up to early 2026.
It's a lot of ground to cover.
It really is. And I want to stress right off the bat, even if you have never watched a single wrestling match in your life, if you are someone who loves learning and spotting patterns, this is an absolute masterclass for you.
Oh, totally.
You are going to see a textbook example of character creation, brand evolution, and just absolute uncompromising dedication to a craft.
It truly is a masterclass.
Yeah.
We are going to look far beyond just the chronological timeline of his matches today.
Right.
The goal is to analyze not just what The Undertaker did to become a global phenomenon, but why his psychological approach to performance art kept audiences utterly captivated across 4 different decades.
4 decades. It's crazy.
It is a fascinating study in audience psychology, business strategy, and professional longevity.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because looking at a nearly 7-foot-tall, 300-pound guy, you would assume he was basically bred in a lab for combat sports.
You'd think so, yeah.
But that is not how his story starts, is it?
Not at all. He was actually born in Houston in 1965, and his early athletic career was entirely focused on the hardwood.
He was a basketball player.
A college basketball player, yeah. He secured a scholarship to Texas Wesleyan University, where he played center. But the traditional academic and athletic path just didn't hold him.
He wanted something else.
Right. In 1986, he made the massive decision to drop out of university to pursue sports entertainment. And his start in the late 80s was rocky, to put it mildly.
How rocky are we talking? Did he just, walk into a ring and immediately find his footing?
Far from it. He began training under a veteran wrestler named Buzz Sawyer.
Okay.
And the dynamic was terrible. Calloway reportedly really disliked Sawyer because the veteran lacked commitment. He essentially took Calloway's money without teaching him the foundational mechanics of the industry.
Wow, so he just took the cash and ran.
Pretty much. So Calloway basically had to learn on the job, absorbing the psychology of the crowd through trial and error.
That's a tough way to learn.
Extremely. He wrestled his very first match in 1987 wearing a mask under the name Texas Red.
Texas Red.
Yeah. And from there, he cycled through this bizarre series of early, largely forgotten gimmicks, just trying to find an identity that resonated.
Throwing things at the wall.
Exactly. He performed as the Master of Pain, then the Punisher. He even played a Russian gravedigger named Boris Dragu.
Boris Drago.
Yeah, and get this. He was literally wrestling in prison shows for the inmates.
So he is wrestling in literal prisons, cycling through these random characters. At what point did the industry actually take notice of him?
It took a while, and he nearly washed out entirely. During a brief stint in World Championship Wrestling WCW, he received a piece of feedback that could have easily ended his career.
What happened?
A company booker named Ole Anderson, who was basically the casting director and scriptwriter rolled into one Gieja, flat out told Calloway that nobody would ever pay money to watch him perform.
Ouch.
Think about the psychological weight of that moment. You've dropped out of college, you've scraped by in prison shows, and a top executive tells you that you have absolutely zero drawing power.
But that rejection is the ultimate turning point, because instead of quitting, it drove Calloway to bypass WCW entirely and desperately seek a meeting with the owner of the rival WWF, Vince McMahon.
Right.
It was a massive uphill battle just to get in the room, and when he finally did, McMahon initially rejected him too.
Which is wild in hindsight.
It is. But days later, McMahon comes back and pitches this concept he had been sitting on, an Old West Undertaker, a character that was originally going to be named Kane the Undertaker.
It is the perfect example of preparation meeting opportunity. McMahon had the creative vision for the character, but he needed a physical specimen who could actually embody it.
And there's Calloway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Calloway, with his immense size, his intimidating presence, and his surprisingly agile athleticism, he was the missing puzzle piece that made the concept viable.
Here's where it gets really interesting. He officially debuts as The Undertaker at the 1990 Survivor Series. Can you break down the actual aesthetics of this character?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just a guy in trunks, it was a masterpiece of morbid detail.
The visual presentation was meticulously crafted. You had the gray boot spats, the wide-brimmed black Stetson hat, the heavy trench coat,
So iconic.
and it extended far beyond his wardrobe. It went all the way down to his match rituals. He would literally place his defeated opponents into body bags after a match.
Right in the middle of the ring.
Yes. And then there was the auditory psychological trigger, his chilling theme music. It was a heavily embellished, dread-inducing remix of Chopin's Funeral March.
When that gong hit.
When the gong hit, the lights would drop and the entire arena would just freeze.
And the craziest part to me is how he acted outside the ring. It wasn't just a costume he took off at the end of the night.
What's fascinating here is the sheer psychology of the Deadman persona. Calloway didn't just play a character, he lived it.
He lived it.
In the wrestling industry, there is a foundational concept called kayfabe,
Kayfabe, right?
which is the strict code of portraying the staged events as absolute, unvarnished reality. To maintain the mystique of this undead supernatural entity, Calloway vigorously protected that kayfabe.
For a long time.
Decades. He refused to break character in public for decades. If you saw him walking through an airport or at a gas station, he wasn't Mark Calloway, the former basketball player.
Yeah.
He moved slowly, he didn't smile for photos, he remained the Undertaker.
You have to mention Paul Bearer here, too, the Undertaker's manager.
Oh, absolutely.
The guy was incredibly dramatic, carrying around this golden urn. And the source material points out that Bearer was actually a real-life funeral director before getting into wrestling.
Which just adds this wild layer of authenticity to the whole macabre presentation.
Totally. The story they told the audience was that this urn transmitted supernatural healing powers to the Undertaker during his matches.
Right.
On paper, that sounds ridiculous, but Calloway's absolute, unblinking commitment to the bit made the audience completely buy into it.
That level of commitment is precisely why he earned the prestigious Wrestling Observer Newsletter Award for Best Gimmick, a record-setting 5 years in a row.
5 years.
From 1990 to 1994. That kind of sustained critical acclaim for a single character is incredibly rare.
Yeah.
It speaks to how effectively he managed the psychological tension in the arena. He moved incredibly slowly, deliberately, not reacting to pain. He created an atmosphere of inevitable doom for his opponents, locking the audience in.
But no matter how good a gimmick is, time marches on. Let's shift our timeline to the year 2000. After taking a hiatus to deal with some injuries, Calloway returns completely transformed. The undead, slow-moving mortician is gone.
Completely gone.
He is replaced by the American badass. We're talking a tobacco-chewing, motorcycle-riding biker who enters the arena to rap metal anthems by Kid Rock and Limp Bizkit.
It was a massive shock to the system.
Why on earth would he abandon a brand he spent a decade building?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the market dynamics around him. The wrestling landscape had dramatically changed by the late 90s.
The Attitude Era.
Exactly. The company had entered the Attitude Era. The audience no longer wanted cartoonish characters or comic book monsters. They demanded gritty realism, high-octane competition, and edgy, foul-mouthed anti-heroes.
And the ratings showed it.
The TV ratings reflected this shift completely. Calloway was astute enough to realize that a slow-moving, horror-themed zombie was becoming a depreciating asset in this new reality-based market.
So he essentially stripped away the very thing that made him famous just to survive?
Exactly that. He recognized that to stay relevant, he had to adapt. So he blended the gimmick with his real-life, everyday personality. He actually rode motorcycles and listened to that style of music in his private life.
Right.
It was a highly calculated survival mechanism to keep his spot at the top of the card.
And it refreshed him completely. But the true synthesis of his career arc happens around 2004.
Yes.
He resurrects the Deadman persona, bringing back the Stetson hat, the trench coat, and the gong, but he doesn't revert to the slow, robotic zombie.
Right. He kept the new moves.
He keeps the MMA-style strikes, the fast-paced submissions, and the aggressive swagger of the biker. He creates this hybrid Deadman.
Best of both worlds.
And for you, listening to this and studying success, this proves the ultimate lesson. True longevity requires continuous, calculated reinvention. You cannot just stay stagnant, no matter how good your original idea was.
He successfully protected the core equity of the brand, the intimidation, the supernatural aura, but he completely updated the operating system to keep it functional and exciting in a modern era.
Now, we need to transition and talk about the physical toll this all took, because the risks he took to entertain that audience are genuinely unimaginable.
They really are.
Let's look at the legendary 1998 Hell in a Cell match against Mankind, played by Mick Foley.
For context, a Hell in a Cell match takes place inside a massive, enclosed steel cage with a roof, standing about 16 feet above the arena floor.
Right. And in this match, The Undertaker literally threw his opponent off the roof of that 16-foot-high cell, crashing entirely through a broadcast table on the floor.
It was a legitimate knockout.
And later in that exact same match, Undertaker hit his signature move, choke slamming his opponent, literally lifting him by the throat and driving him down so hard that he broke through the chain link roof of the cell and plummeted down to the ring canvas.
Utter chaos.
But what a lot of people don't know is that in making his own descent down into the ring to continue the match, Calloway suffered a broken ankle.
And he just kept wrestling.
He just kept going.
The pain tolerance required to do that is staggering. And the danger wasn't just limited to the wrestling moves themselves. The elaborate theatrical elements of his character brought their own extreme hazards.
Take the 2010 Elimination Chamber incident. The Elimination Chamber is another brutal match held inside a massive steel and chain link structure.
Right.
He's making his slow, dramatic signature entrance, and his pyrotechnics malfunctioned. He was engulfed in flames up to 3 times.
Yeah, fine.
He suffered first and second-degree burns on his chest and neck right there on live television. But he didn't break character.
Oh.
He marched down to the ring and wrestled the entire match anyway. He later attributed his survival to a couple of lucky choices. He had applied water to his hair right before walking out, and he had swapped a sleeveless vest for a sleeved jacket just minutes prior.
It is a literal trial by fire. For anyone listening who has to perform under immense pressure, whether that is a high-stakes boardroom presentation or a live broadcast, his ability to completely compartmentalize that sudden physical trauma and stick to the script is the ultimate example of professional discipline.
Absolutely.
But beyond the physical toll, there was an immense psychological weight he carried, particularly regarding what became known as the streak.
Oh, the streak.
For decades, The Undertaker was completely undefeated at WWE's biggest annual event, WrestleMania. He built an unprecedented 21-0 winning record.
Amazing.
That streak became an institution, arguably as famous and highly anticipated as the championship titles themselves.
It was mythological. But then came 2014, and the shocking moment when Brock Lesnar finally broke the streak.
Yeah.
The audience was in stunned silence. People were literally crying in the stands, and the physical reality of that match was brutal. Medical reports from that night showed that Calloway suffered a severe concussion in the very first minutes of that bout.
Very beginning.
He essentially wrestled the entire high-profile match on autopilot with no memory of it afterward. That major injury, combined with the loss of the legendary streak, deeply shook his confidence in his later years. He really struggled with whether he could still perform at the elite level the fans expected.
Which is what makes his eventual exit so poignant. He spent years trying to find the right note to end on, battling through advancing age, declining physical abilities, and multiple joint surgeries.
He finally got that swan song at WrestleMania 36 in 2020.
Yes.
Due to the circumstances of the world at that time, he couldn't have a traditional live match in front of 80,000 screaming fans. Instead, he had a cinematic, narrative-heavy boneyard match against AJ Styles.
And filming it like a movie was brilliant. They shot it in a rural cemetery over multiple hours, which allowed them to carefully edit the action and protect his failing body.
It looked incredible.
It did. It also allowed him to creatively bring out the unholy trinity of his personas, blending the Deadman, the American Badass, and the real Mark Calloway all into one performance. After burying his opponent, he got on his motorcycle and quite literally rode off into the sunset. It was the perfect protective way to cap off a 30-year in-ring career.
It really was. Now, as we transition to his life after the bell rings, let's look at the man behind the myth. Because Mark Calloway's personal life is multifaceted.
Very much so.
He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He is a massive Texas Longhorns football fan. The team actually gave him a custom helmet in 2021.
Nice.
He's heavily involved in real estate investment. He is also a huge dog lover. He and his ex-wife set up a dedicated fund at Texas A&M specifically for life-saving treatments for large dogs.
That's a great detail.
Now, looking at his life outside the ring, the texts also note his engagement with current events, which is a stark contrast to the completely apolitical, silent character he played for decades.
Right.
And I want to be very clear with you here. We are simply conveying the facts from the source material without taking any sides or endorsing any viewpoints. We are just reporting what's in the text.
Exactly. Just the facts.
Records show that in 2020, he expressed support for the Blue Lives Matter movement. He also made political donations totaling $7,000 to Donald Trump's campaigns. And more recently, he appeared in a 2024 TikTok video endorsing Trump alongside his former on-screen brother, Glenn Jacobs, who played Kane. It's also noted that Trump used The Undertaker's iconic theme music at a 2022 rally, though the sources clarify that Calloway himself had no association with that specific event.
This raises an important question. What does a performer who has spent 3 decades rigorously guarding a secretive, mythical persona actually do when the lifelong act finally ends?
The huge shift.
The transition into civilian life, or even a different type of public life, is notoriously difficult for entertainers who are so deeply tied to one specific identity.
And Calloway has navigated it in a surprisingly modern way. After decades of silence, he has fully transitioned into media and mentorship.
Yes, he has.
He started his own podcast called 6 Feet Under, which became so successful that it was acquired by WWE in 2025. Then, in late 2025, he launched a 35th anniversary YouTube channel specifically to talk about his long career and react to his old matches.
He is effectively monetizing his experience and his newly accessible personality. Because he was silent for so long, his actual insights now have immense market value.
He even made a surprising move into reality television coaching. In early 2025, he debuted as a legend judge on the WWE reality show WWE LFG, evaluating up-and-coming talent.
That's a great role for him.
And as of August 2025, he took on a highly influential creative role in Mexico's AAA wrestling promotion. He is actively shaping the next generation of performers. But before all these recent business ventures, there was the true capstone of his career, his 2022 Hall of Fame induction.
It is hard to overstate the emotional magnitude of that night.
Exactly. When he walked out to the podium, the live audience gave him a massive 10-minute standing ovation before he even spoke a single word.
10 minutes.
It brought this imposing 7-foot giant to tears. He then delivered a deeply emotional 137-minute speech where he finally just laid it all out.
He really did.
He peeled back the curtain and shared his life philosophies, detailing the mindset, the immense discipline, and the profound respect for the audience that kept him on top for so long. So, what does this all mean?
Right.
When you step back and look at this deep dive, it is a phenomenal testament to the power of unwavering commitment to a vision. Mark Calloway took a gimmick that could have so easily been a cartoonish joke, and through sheer will and discipline, made it a global icon.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, it shows the incredible bravery required to evolve when the world changes around you, stepping away from what is comfortable just to survive.
That is the crucial takeaway for you listening to this.
Yeah.
Whether you are building a business, cultivating a personal brand, or navigating a long-term career, there's a delicate, continuous balance you have to strike.
Yes.
You must fiercely protect your core identity and the quality of your output, but you also have to be completely willing to adapt your packaging when the market demands it. That ability to be rigidly disciplined yet strategically flexible is the ultimate key to building a 30-year legacy.
Now, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something to explore on your own that builds on what we have discussed today.
Okay.
Given that Mark Calloway spent over 30 years fiercely guarding his out-of-character persona, living in the shadows, moving stiffly in public, and keeping quiet just to protect the illusion of the dead man, did the mask actually become the man?
That is a fascinating question.
Is it possible that the absolute suffocating secrecy required to build the world's greatest wrestling gimmick temporarily trapped Mark Calloway inside his own creation, making it psychologically impossible for him to truly retire until the world was finally allowed to see the man beneath the hat?
Something to really think about.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.